You ready? Okay, great. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the August 23rd, 2022 meeting to order at 9 a.m. Welcome, everyone. And Melissa, will you please call the roll?
Okay, Director Balin.
Here.
Director Boatwright.
Here.
Director Kearns.
Here.
Director Murphy is absent today, and Director Ringen.
Here.
Okay.
Great, thank you. All right, well, then why don't we all join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Well, again, welcome everyone, and we'd like to welcome the members of the public who have taken the time to attend this meeting and provide comments on matters related to district business. Any member of the public may address the board related to any matter within the board's jurisdiction. This need not be related to any item on the agenda. However, the board cannot act on an item unless it was noticed on the agenda. Persons speaking during the public comment will be limited to 5 minutes, or depending on the number of persons wishing to speak, it may be reduced to allow all members of the public the opportunity to address the board. So at this time, I'd like to open it up to the public if there's any member that would like to comment on anything that's not on our agenda. And Corey, you can also see if there's anyone out in the virtual land that would like to comment.
Sally Rhodes online does have her hand up for a comment.
Okay. Good morning, Sally.
Good morning. Thank you for an opportunity to speak to you. In June, I spoke to you all about a continued concern that the Phoenix Lake Preservation and Restoration Project that TUD had helped develop and codify remained incomplete, and it wasn't included in the capital budget at that time. As I reviewed the agenda for the meeting today, I saw that there will be an update on the strategic plan, and the Phoenix Lake project is mentioned only one time in the plan, and it is in the past tense that phase 1 is completed. To be specific, under goal 1 that talks about improving water security, there's a action point that talks about methods to improve water supply and reliability that is very clearly related to the Phoenix Lake project. This is where phase 1 is mentioned as completed, and the question is, can't we get phase 2 and other parts of that project included under that point? Under goal 3, there's a talk about partnership for the benefit of the community, and it speaks under an action item to working with the United States Forest Service and Fire Safety Council for fuel reduction grants, as well as another strategy point that talks about applying to federal and state agencies for grants related to certain community needs. There even is a list of potential areas where grant application is needed. Phoenix Lake doesn't exist on that, and it would be a logical place to include it. The Fire Safety Council grants certainly can affect the fire mitigation part of the Phoenix Lake plan. And finally, under goal 5, where you speak to best financial management and financial planning, there's a strategic action item that says to submit grant applications for high priority projects. It would be nice to identify Phoenix Lake as a high priority project. Certainly at this point, Phoenix Lake deserves to be in the strategic plan, and in fact won't have much of a place in the future without being there. Multiple goals have relationships to the plan, and the subtasks that Horizon outlined could be put in a variety of areas. How can this be done, and why wasn't it done before, which is a question that won't have an answer. Perhaps the board should convene an ad hoc group of some of the community members and the board members and TUD staff to refresh this Phoenix Lake preservation plan and update the tasks and the priorities that seem appropriate. Perhaps there should be a workshop to educate the board about the Horizon plan and allow the board a chance to reevaluate that plan with the plans for the future and air the concerns that might exist that delay its progress. Hopefully, we can find a way to renew the commitment to the Phoenix Lake project and make it part of the strategic plan. And I appreciate the opportunity to repeatedly talk to you about this, but it is a project that has, as you know, a great deal of value and importance to this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Any other member of the public wish to comment? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public forum and we'll go to the consent calendar. Melissa, will you please read those items?
Okay, item number 1, minutes of the regular board meeting of August 9th, 2022. And item number 2, consider adopting a subsequent resolution making findings in support of allowing remote meetings pursuant to AB 361.
Thank you. Is there any board member that would like to pull either one of these items at this time? Okay, any public discussion on the consent calendar? See, okay, then I will ask for a motion and a second. Approve the consent calendar.
I would make a motion that we accept the consent calendar.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, Melissa, will you please call for the vote?
Okay, Director Boatright,
Aye.
Director Regan,
Yes.
Director Kearns,
Aye.
Director Balin.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 4-0 with Director Murphy absent.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Melissa, will you please read the first item of regular business?
Okay, item number 3, 2-care presentation to the Board of Directors regarding the Community Wildfire Protection Fund.
Good morning, President Balin, Tom Burke, General Manager. We have members from TUD here to give a presentation on this Community Wildfire Protection Fund. So we have Randy Hanbell, Jeff Sargo, and Melinda Fleming here to give the presentation.
Well, good morning, and thank you for having us. We tried to do this before we finally got here. Come here this morning on behalf of TUD. By the way, I'm the current chairman. Jeff Sargo is a long time member of the board, and Melinda is our executive director. TUD, for those of you who aren't familiar with TUD, you should be. TUD is the Tuolumne County Alliance for Resources and Environment. Been around since 1988, I think. We're the last in the state of this type of organization. Used to be several more of them. We're focused on the good stewardship of our resources, water included, water and mining and forestry and farming, grazing, things like that. And we're going to talk today about a program that's actually a little more than 2 years old, I believe, but we couldn't roll it out because we had this little incident called pandemic. It kind of held us back. So we didn't get to roll it out a little bit earlier this year at a two-year meeting we had. This is, in my mind, probably the most important single issue that faces our community. And it kind of is in the background because it isn't going to happen to us. It's happened elsewhere, but it isn't going to happen to us. We're going to show you a video, and Jeff's going to come up and do that. It includes some instances of paradise. Some people say that can't happen here. I don't know how many of you were around 2011, but we had really heavy winds about the 1st of December of 2011. And this place, at least my backyard, my forest looked like a war zone after what happened that winter. Now, we didn't have fire associated with it, but we could have. And then around my house, we had a little incident called the Mario Fire. I think that was 2012. And I watched the air attack planes come over my house flying low and dive into that fire. And I thought, oh my God, I got to do something. Then we had a little incident called Rim Fire. I think you remember that. We have a rich history of things. And during that time, my wife called me in the middle of the day because she didn't see me. I was out working Rim Fire. And she says, we're on evacuation advisory. It kind of gets your attention. And you may remember just a short time ago, If you don't remember, a lot of people already forgot, we had a little fire called Washington Fire. We've had a lot of warning shots across the bow. And what we're gonna present to you is how we propose to deal with that. And I think there's some urgency associated with that. That's my prelude. I'll come back and say a few closing remarks after Justin does. But I invite you to pay attention and share this information with your friends, your neighbors, and your constituents that you serve, because they're all impacted by this. Jeff?
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this morning. Before I start, I want to thank you for loaning Don and Jennifer to us at Sierra Professional Association a couple weeks ago to give us a presentation on the new sewer plant, and clear as mud now. We know just enough to be dangerous. It was very interesting and very well presented. Anyway, thanks again for having us here. My name is Jeff Sargo. Some of you know me as the owner of Central Heat and Air in Robinson Roofing down on Stockton Street. But today I'm here representing the board of the Tuolumne County Alliance for Resources and the Environment, better known as TUCARE. Now, if you're not familiar with TUCARE, in your pamphlets there, you will find a brochure that outlines the educational programs we offer. And check it out. It's a good organization. As many of you may know, TUCARE is part of and an active participant in what's called the Wise Use Movement. We believe that we can and should use the natural resources that God has abundantly blessed us with. And at the same time, we believe we can and should be good stewards of those resources. TUCARE has been fighting for your ability to use those resources for over 30 years. We are the largest grassroots organization in the county. If you're not a member, you're invited to become one and help us in this work. Now we're going to watch a short video on the campfire that took out Paradise, California, and the Washington Fire, Arizona.
And then there was a point in there where the wind just kind of started picking up. And the spot fires that were not a big deal at the time started engulfing both sides of the road.
By 7:30, the fire had picked up. The wind was spraying burning embers in every direction. A column of smoke was now visible for miles. At the incident command post, Chief Messina was aware this was becoming a major fire.
Just be ready to call in personnel that are off duty right now.
But with firefighters in Concow trapped and aircraft unable to fly because of the wind, he didn't know how fast it was moving.
What was different about this day, it was the fact that as soon as our firefighters engaged, they went right into rescue mode. And they were no longer able, nor did they really care where the fire was spreading. They were too busy on rescuing civilians and ensuring that of their own safety. So we didn't get a lot of intelligence on how fast the fire was spreading.
In the past, fires have rarely crossed the canyon. But the campfire was now spreading at a rate of 80 football fields a minute.
All units, be advised, the town of Paradise is under a mandatory evacuation. The town of Paradise is under a mandatory evacuation.
The fire was swirling around the houses. It was coming in at all angles, defying any sense of gravity or any sense of, in my mind, what would be normal for a fire. Too much was happening, too much was going on, and we were not able to do more than just a couple of handful of streets.
For the moment, yes.
Everybody can hear all the patients are out from downstairs.
You rock.
I don't know about staff, but we got them all out.
Okay, very good.
There was people that were having to carry an IV bag with them, that were holding their own IV bag. And then we had people that were just coming out of surgery that had to be loaded up.
No availability of ambulances to Hood River Hospital. We have fire on campus now, but I need ambulances.
Doctors pulled up with their SUVs and were putting patients in with doctors.
Perfect. Are you helping get people out of here? Yeah. Okay.
and nurses are driving their own private vehicles and taking out their car seats and leaving them on the side of the hospital ground. It wasn't a normal evacuation that we've been planning and rehearsing. It was so fast.
What was that? We got room for one more right here as well.
With anywhere from a few minutes to 15, 20 minutes, everything around the hospital was burning and on fire. It went black real quick. It felt like working a night shift.
Is it safe to stand here like this? I don't know if it's safe anywhere. We're going to lose the hospital.
In less than an hour, the fire swept across the town of Paradise, overwhelming the firefighters' efforts to stop it.
And those winds can push those embers a long ways. And it just kind of perpetuates into one big fire at once. There was no flaming front.
But in this fire, winds high up to 100 miles an hour were blowing the embers sideways.
The wind aloft that lofted the embers was a lot stronger wind than the wind at the surface. And that's what allowed it to throw fireballs all over our town.
Deer County S-15, good to open up both lanes and get everybody out. Pearson and Sawmill need to stop all traffic. Planes, get people moving now.
We conceded, I can tell you, it was 9:23 in the morning. We conceded that maintaining the evacuation routes and civilian rescue was our only objective that day.
Cell phone towers went down. The networks were so clogged that we couldn't get through. It was an event that literally outpaced all of our resources almost immediately, literally outpaced all of the planning that had been done prior to this.
And my car is starting to fill up with smoke at that point. And I told my husband, I'm like, the car's filling up with smoke. I have to get out of the car. And he's like, get out and run. And I'm like, I can't get out and run. You don't understand. There's fire everywhere and I can't run through fire. And he said, you're going to have to.
Are you trapped?
Yeah.
Is your... Okay.
They were coughing, choking. She had a hard time even telling me exactly where they were.
Ma'am, you need to get out of the house.
We can't. Every door's on fire, please.
It started getting real staticky, and I had no response. I was talking to myself, and after 9 minutes and something, the phone went dead.
It took only 4 hours for Paradise to be destroyed. 85 people perished in the Camp Fire. The majority were over 65 years old. Some were trapped in their cars, others were still in their homes.
Everything was perfect that day for a massive destructive incident to do what it did. And it's in place everywhere in California, Arizona, Nevada, Washington, Oregon. And it's like, you don't even want to think about it. Like, what's next? Can it be worse than that? And the answer is yes.
Well, as you're processing what you've just seen, need to consider this. What happened in Paradise can happen here in Sonora. Yeah, it can. It almost happened here on August 26th. So what was the difference? Why did Paradise burn to the ground and Sonora didn't? It's a one-word answer: wind. They had wind and they had lots of it. We didn't have any. The campfire was a wind-driven fire. In Paradise, the wind is pushing the flames forward at incredible speeds and launching embers miles ahead of the flames, starting fires, spot fires all over the place. What most people don't realize is that when you have winds like that, even much lower than that, all the aircraft are grounded. You had no bombers dropping retardant, no helicopters dropping retardant or water or ferry crews around. Probably the worst part of it is, as they mentioned on the video, you had no spotter plane. You got nobody up in the sky relaying fire behavior information to the ground commanders. So once that happens, you have ground crews, ground equipment only, and they're working blind. They don't know what the fire's doing. On August 26th, luckily here in Sonora, there was no wind at all. Those of you who saw it, the smoke column was rising straight up. We were blessed. Unlike the campfire, the Washington fire was driven by the fuels that were ahead of it. The fuels were dry, and as long as it had fuel in front of it, it kept moving. With the Columbia air attack here and no wind, we had immediate access to incredible air power. The Aurora fire was still going, so there was aircraft in the area already, but when the fire commanders saw the potential for catastrophic fire in downtown Sonora, took everything off the Aurora fire and moved it all onto the Washington fire. And that air attack stopped that fire from going north over Signal Hill and then to Gibbs Ranch, Rancho Sonora Estates, or out through Sonora Knolls, Sonora High School to Columbia, stopped it from going west into Valponi Acres, or south into Millville and Mobile Estates, or east over Knolls Hill and into downtown Sonora. And yes, along with hand crews along with hand crews on the ground in Bear Valley, they stopped converted by business down. That picture you saw there with the where it started the Washington fire, that green building is my shop. And those flames behind it were 100, 150 feet tall. Had they not stopped it there, that fire would have run up Woods Creek, past the fairground, up Southgate, right into downtown Sonora. We dodged a major bullet that day. Now, we all saw what the Washington fire did with no wind and tremendous air attack. Imagine the results if the wind speeds had been high enough to ground the aircraft. That fire would have done catastrophic damage to Sonora no matter which way the wind blew it. And the truth of the matter is, we could not have stopped it. Without that aircraft, we are in bad stuff. We need to stop thinking about wildfires as being out there, up there in the forest. We are surrounded by and live in a landscape of incredible fire fuels that have grown up and choked the open land around our homes, our businesses, and throughout our towns. We need to think about wildfire being right here in town. As we saw with the Washington fire, it can happen. Will a catastrophic fire like Paradise happen again? Of course it's going to. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when and where, and it could be just as bad or worse. It's hard to imagine what an event like that, the effect of an event like that would have in our lives. I had an employee who lived in Paradise before the campfire. Todd's house burned down. The business he worked at burned down. The bank he deposited his checks in burned down, as did the grocery store he shopped at, the school his children went to, and that hospital where his children were born. Todd's town is gone. And now, so is he. He and thousands of others like him who called Paradise their home before the campfire have had to move, relocate, and start their lives over again elsewhere. This is serious stuff. So think about this for a second. How long is it going to be before Paradise is a town or a community again? If it happened here in Sonora, how long would it be before Sonora would be a community again? How many of our friends would have to move away, start new lives elsewhere, and be lost to us forever? This is a life-changing event. And don't think it can't happen here. The people who lived in the Oakland Hills didn't think it could happen there in 1992 either. Just look around us. The Butte Fire took out a big chunk of Calaveras County. Camp Fire took out Paradise. The Bear Fire decimated the Plumas National Forest a little further north. Then you have the Bootleg, Caldor, and the Dixie Fire, some of the largest in history, that decimated the landscape where they burned. The sad thing about it, where those forests burn, they will not be forests again in our lifetime. It's major events. We dodged a bullet with the rim fire, and it got huge, but lucky for us, it didn't burn in any of our communities. There's another fact to think about. Sonora has a history of burning to the ground. It's done it several times in the past. It's time for action. So what can we do to minimize the impact that wildfire will have on our communities and our lives? First off, get personally prepared. Develop a plan. Share it with your family. What will you take if you're evacuated? If you got prepared for that? And how will that change if you're at home, at work, just out and about? How about your kids if they're at school? What's going to happen there? Are your elderly parents or elderly neighbors? How are you going to help them get out? Next thing you think about is, how are you going to get out? We are not here in Tuolumne County in the best situation for evacuation routes. If you live east of Sonora, you're pretty much stuck being fed on Highway 108. Yeah, there's some alternate back road routes that the locals know about, and the locals will clog up immediately. Are you better off staying in the middle of a big field or in the middle of a big parking lot? A significant number of people, 85 people that died in the campfire, died in their cars, either burning up or from smoke inhalation. They were stuck in traffic and died there. When they told us to evacuate Sonora with the Washington fire, we had almost instant gridlock. And Highway 108, our only major escape route, was closed. Fire was right there by it. So next thing, prepare your home for fire. Get it ember proofed. You can go online and get information. Great videos out there. The University of Nevada, Reno Extension Service has one called Be Ember Prepared. It is excellent. It's a good place to start. But there's others available from the NFPA, from CAL FIRE, the U.S. Forest Service, and of all places, Fire Safe Marin has some great videos on getting ready for fire. There's a lot of information out there. It's readily available. Just learn what to do and just do it. In your package, you'll find a list of links to websites that have those videos on. Next thing to do is check out your neighbor's property, both from the position of what can you do to help them, what kind of damage is going to happen if fire comes through, but also look at the real possibility that their property may be the source of the fire that burns down your property. That's how it spreads. Then look at the vacant land around you, because that could be a threat to everyone in your neighborhood. If you're part of a fire-wise community, get involved and help get the work done. If you're not in a fire-wise community, get one started, get people together, and once again, get the work done. If you've got acreage, after you get it cleaned up, run cattle or sheep or goats or something on it to help keep it cleaned up as we go forward. It's an ongoing thing. Those weeds keep growing. You got to get rid of them. Think about the grass and the brush, small trees, down logs, everything out there. It's stored up energy. It's been stored up for 50 or 100 years since the last time a fire burnt through that area. When we have a fire, all that energy is going to be released at one time. Or we can get ahead of the ball game and remove enough of that fuel to keep the fire small enough so we can stop it and put it out before it spreads. We need to restore our surroundings to be back to the condition they were when fires burned through here regularly. The cycle used to be about 5 to 8 years. And now it's 50 years, 100 years. We've been doing a good job putting fires out, but it has some unintended consequences. So plan ahead, decide on your escape options, prepare your home, help prepare your neighbor's home, and get your neighborhood ready. It's all got to be done. TUCARE has been educating about the wise use of natural resources since 1988, over 30 years. Care and management of those resources must include the reducing of the threat that catastrophic fires are to our communities, our forests, our businesses, our homes, and our lives. We will not be fulfilling our mission if we don't step up and help our neighbors and friends protect what we call home. TUCARE's board has recognized that the number one threat to our community is fire. Nothing comes closer. TUCARE is utilizing presentations like this to educate the public about it, to get and raise money to fund the Community Wildfire Protection Fund. This work is a joint effort between TUCARE and the Sonora Area Foundation. TUCARE will educate the public and raise money, and the Sonora Area Foundation will hold and distribute those funds for the projects that are approved. We're working with local fire agencies to identify and help fund strategic projects where we get the most bang for our buck. We're going to provide the most protection for the community. Our goal is to help fund projects that can't be funded any other way with government grants and the like. We want to help private landowners engage in this effort to reduce the threat to our community. There's some good work being done and has been done, but we need more, much, much more. We need to get the community aware of the problem and get them behind this effort. Just look around where you live. Gullies choked with fuel, overgrown vacant land, hillsides thick with brush and small trees, all stored up energy just ripe for a catastrophic fire. And although I should have known better, I never considered that brush-covered hill between my shop and the bypass to be a threat. Well, those 100-foot flames you saw in the video said otherwise. They were just able to stop it right at the back end of our shop. So what's the land surrounding your house or business look like? Will the energy stored there be the source of the fire that takes out your place? Shaded fuel breaks with ground fuels and ladder fuels removed and more open tree canopies must replace the dense vegetation we see all around us. Some local examples of shaded fuel breaks. Behind Sonora Plaza above the hospital there, about 2 or 3 years ago, that hill was worked over. Really looks good now. The fuel's been removed. There's another project just completed, runs from behind Sonora High School over to Racetrack Road. You can see the difference there. Along with all these projects in town, the Tuolumne County Fire Safe Council has been doing a series of projects to create a 27-mile long, 1 mile wide fire break around our community. If you look in your packet, you see a map that looks like this. This blue line is that 27-mile long fire break. They've done chunks of it, and now they're working on getting pieces in between and bringing it together so it can be effective. So it's time for action. Join with TUCARE, participate in funding the Community Wildfire Protection Fund projects. In the folder you received, there's a card explaining how you can donate to the Wildfire Fund. If you know others who are willing to donate, tell them about the Community Wildfire Protection Fund. Make checks payable to the Sonora Area Foundation with a notation that they are for the CWPF. Of course, donations to the Community Wildfire Protection are tax deductible. This is a must-do job if our community is to survive. The question is, what are you going to do? If each of us does the part, fulfills our part, we can get it done. But if we don't get started now, it's going to be too late when the next fire starts. Join us and let's get this work done now before that fire starts. Because you know, if you and I aren't willing to step up and make the investment to protect our community, who will? Thank you. We're open for questions.
Jeff?
Yes.
I need to share a number. You calculated the number, somebody asked you. Because I didn't hear you say it. The campfire was moving at 80 football fields a minute. Anybody got any idea how fast that is?
You'll be amazed. 275 miles an hour. Try and outrun that fire. Yeah. That's what we, in 2012, ran exactly that big wind we had there. We'd had a fire with that. That's what would have happened. Same scenario was wind came out of the east and blowing toward the ocean. And you saw in the video, there's just nothing you can do but try and save people's lives. Thank you.
Last comment, which we rarely say, is this is a project where we need to do these things to protect our community, protect our homes, protect but it's journey, it's not a destination. Because as soon as you get it done, all that stuff wants to go back and keep maintaining it. I've done that on my own property because of the threats I've felt, and it takes a while to do it, and it's a constant effort. Brownfields and ladder fields. If you want to see it, come by and see me. I'll gladly show you what I've done, and I'm still doing it. And the other one I say is we ask people to give donations and participate in this program. I want to tell you that's not a one-time thing either. I donate every month to this. I have been doing it for a couple of years now because I know it's an ongoing thing. And so anyway, we encourage you. And the other one I'd like to say is we're willing to put this presentation together in front of any group who wants to see it, those videos. And when the woman says, or talked to her husband, he says, you gotta get out much to get can't, there's fire going on, you have to. Obviously she did and she survived. It's scary. And I don't have to tell you that your system is threatened by all this as well. And our whole community is, and we depend on you. So that's one of the reasons why we wanted to come here and show this to your organization and the public and anybody who might be online. Thank you very much. Like I said, if you got any questions, we're available. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Any questions for Randy from the board? Any comments? Jeff, have any comments?
I just want to thank TUCARE for coming in today. I've seen this presentation several times now, and every time, including right now, when I hear that woman speak, boy, it's emotional, and it makes you wonder what you would do if you were in that situation, and we certainly don't want to have that happen here in Tuolumne County. So I hope that that we all individually and as a group or whatever can do whatever we can to make us as fire safe as we possibly can. Thank you, Randy and Jeff and Melinda. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff. Is there any member of the public that wishes to comment at this time?
Not at the moment.
Okay, any member of our audience? Okay, I echo Jeff's sentiments. Thank you for the presentation and to you as a member of TUCARE. So with that, then that concludes our presentation, and we'll definitely get this out to our friends and neighbors.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Melissa, will you please read the next item on the regular business?
Okay, item number 4, consider signing letter encouraging Governor Newsom to sign Senate Bill 991 Newman into law.
Okay.
Well, good morning. It's hard to follow on such a topic of such great importance with something like this, but it is a business item. Before you is to consider signing and sending forth a letter of support for the governor signing Senate Bill 991. The reason this is important, well, let me provide just a quote from the governor that Dawn shared with me, and I think it resonates with the reason why SB 991 is important to us, is the governor recently said, the paralysis of process is preventing progress, which I thought, wow, that sounds pretty good. Essentially, normally when we go through a project development, we know it takes a lot of time. And the governor was speaking more in terms of drought, large-scale drought projects and how they take decades to actually get to construction and operation. And in our case, we're thinking specifically about Sierra Pines and how SB 991, which would allow public agencies, special districts, cities, counties to utilize what we call design build or progressive design build to streamline the process in order to get these projects completed. And this bill is specific to projects over $5 million. Currently, we do not have the authority to do that kind of contracting. here at TUD. And so we're at staff level, we're supporting not just the water sector, but also the solar industry sees value in this, the transportation industry, anywhere where there's large public infrastructure that needs to be constructed, this bill would allow for a design build to be used. I don't want to take up a lot of time, we got a busy agenda, but I'll just go down a list of a few reasons why design build would be beneficial for us, specifically for Sierra Pines. One reason is usually you go out and you put an RFP out, you get a design engineer, they design a project for you, they give you sort of plans and specifications at 30%, 60, 90, and then final. And you really don't know what the project is going to cost. They might give you a cost estimate, but engineers are not as good at cost estimating as contractors. That's what contractors do, is they submit bids and they build things. And they're closer to the procurement and the actual labor side of the equation. And so through design build, it would allow us to form a team with a contractor and a designer, and at ground level zero, and work through the whole process and have an open book in terms of pricing, phasing, constructability. A lot of times engineers will design something that looks great on paper, but it isn't easy to build, or it adds a lot of cost to a project. Having a contractor involved earlier will identify some of those issues. It will also manage risk. When you have award a contract to the low bidder, and the contractor is just then being familiarized with the project and the plans, there are a host of what we call requests for information, that many of them result in change orders, which add to costs to the project, which we feel with a design build, we don't avoid some of that. For instance, we probably had, if Jennifer were here, we probably had 300 RFIs on the wastewater plant alone. And that is the contractor asking for clarification on the plans. Those kinds of things, although they'll never be 100% avoided, could be reduced a lot. So there are a number of other benefits, including time. You could move to construction much quicker with a design build than you could going through the conventional process, which translates to cost savings. There's also the ability to start work and ordering materials earlier on in the process. And right now with cost escalation and inflation, that's very attractive as well.
Could you briefly tell us what is the purpose of this bill? How would it change how we do business, and is there a cost associated with it?
Great, good questions. So the purpose of the bill is to modify the public contracting code so that special districts, public agencies, and whatnot can utilize design build. Currently, under law, we cannot. So that's number one. What will the purpose be or use for TUD? We don't do a lot of projects over 5 million. Sierra Pines is certainly the one that comes to mind. The wastewater plant we're doing now, but the legislation that was behind on that, is we would really like to utilize this for Sierra Pines. We would save in between 12 to 18 months time. This board would have much more certainty of cost as we go through the process, and we wouldn't be stuck with a sticker shock at bid date like we did on the wastewater plant. What will it cost us? Nothing. Quite honestly, it won't cost us anything. It could save us money, as I've outlined, but it's only going to be specific for use on projects over 5 million, and there aren't a lot of them that we're doing. But if this legislation becomes permanent, then it would be another tool in the toolbox for TUD to consider using on other large projects.
Thank you. And also, it sounds like it would enable us to have a little more control over the financial aspect of the bidding process, which I would hope would translate to some kind of greater savings or just more prudence, I guess, in the process.
Absolutely, it would do that, and We would love the opportunity at some point in the future to have a more robust discussion with the board about this, especially if it looks like this is what we're going to utilize for Sierra Pines. I know this is the menu for it right now. But the first step is make it legal. And this has passed the Assembly, it's passed the Senate, it's on the governor's desk, and now is the window of opportunity for you to consider, encouraging the governor to sign it. It looks very favorable from what we understand. And then, there's a whole host of agencies out there that are looking at this, and they would probably be utilizing this next year. We would hope to do the same with Sierra Pines. Your staff's going to get some training on this week, actually, from the Water Collaborative Association, and I can share more details at a future date.
Any other staff like to share on this item? Okay, I'll open it up for comments. Thank you. Open it up for board comments. Yes, go ahead, David.
Multiple questions. Now, the design build process, how do you start a process like that? You have a thought of something you want to do, water treatment plant, Sierra Pines. Do you go through and hit all the checkpoints as far as capacity and what you want to do, and then put it out there like a request for proposals? Okay. In doing so in that fashion, how much effort do you get on coming information back from a designer contractor team to actually go forward and do that? It seems like it would be a lot bigger investment on a engineer contractor part to actually kind of come up with how that's going to work, because I'm having a hard time seeing how the end price to come up with a process like that.
Yeah, and I those are great questions. Those go to the heart of the matter, really. And I don't want to gloss over, but I want to be responsive. So I'll just say, you put out an RFP and you hire this team that is a contractor and designer. And since Sierra Pines already has 30% design, we really know quite well what we want in the big scale, big picture. And they work really closely with the district staff. So it's actually more intensive than it would be than if we just hired Pace, for example. And Pace comes back maybe every week. We have a little conference call and Pace says, we're working through the plans and here's something to consider. We have a question here or there. With this approach, it's a team, it's a collaborative. It's really called progressive design build. It's called collaborative delivery for a reason. You'd have engineers writing specifications, contractors doing cost estimating, the district operations staff and engineering, feeding preferences, feeding information, and that all gets thrown in. There's obviously a team leader, but it would require more than a full-time staff person during the development phase. Whereas with the regional plant, wastewater plant, it was me part-time and mostly Pace. And what you get is $300 fines. So, I mean, you get a set of plans that have never been vetted by a contractor, haven't had the ability to have the multiple disciplines looking at it. Pace does great work. It's the system and the process they were working under versus a collaborative delivery. And so at any point in the process, we could say, what's the current cost estimate for this project? Well, what happens if we want to change the building and we wanted to add an architectural facade to the building? We want to change the roof, we want to change the windows. What's that going to cost? They build a cost model so that as you can test different design ideas against the cost of the project. There's a lot of inertia when you go through a regular design build. Pace has a lot of ownership over the decisions that the design. And to get them to change is difficult. With progressive design build, you can change very fluidly and not be invested so much in a particular design only because you had already put a lot of work into it, because there's real-time decision making going on. So there's just a lot of other benefits to it, and then the board can negotiate what it wants to pay at the end of the project before we go into construction, including the profit. You'll see the contractor's profit. Right now, that's black box when you go out to bid now, and the contractor will already know all the risks, and we will too. Is there groundwater? Is there rock? Is there, an unknown about a lead time on equipment? A lot of that can be worked out in front, and they can order that equipment in front. So there's just a bunch of really good synergies that you get with collaborative delivery.
Does it change any aspect on the prevailing wage laws?
Unfortunately, no. The contractor still has to comply with the prevailing wage.
It sounds like going through the process, and this would be a new process to go through. It sounds, from the description, like it would be a pretty heavy consumer on at least a couple of key people, as far as the hours going through. I know when Pace designed the regional plan, and the plans came out at 30%, later on a higher percentage, I spent a lot of time reading through, those plans and all that, and send it back. I never knew whether any of the changes were, adopted or made. Some were, talked about. It just, I'm a little unsure. Last question would be, has anybody fully read the bill itself? The final format, so there's no hidden work in there doing other things other than changing the California construction code?
No, I don't read legislation for a living. I didn't see any. There's certainly some additional sort of overhead tasks that we would have to do. We have to file a report that basically kind of measures the progress of how this process went for us, because they needed to have some metrics in order to evaluate whether or not this is something that they want to adopt permanently at the state. There's some code of conflict of interest things. There's some very specific ways in which we have to release the RFP and do the selection of the team. There are a lot of other things in there, but I didn't see anything hidden that would be of great detriment to the district. Again, like I said, it's at our discretion if we even want to use this. We can just do business as usual, but business as usual comes at a cost, and this is the first time this opportunity has presented itself to where the district could utilize a different method and have more cost certainty at a time now when time and cost they trump almost everything else right now. With inflation going at the rate it is, and us not having the funds to do this project, we're going to have to request a grant, and we have to have a pretty reasonable certainty of the range of cost of the project when we're going to submit funding application. If we don't, then we're going to be faced with possibly we're short $20 million on a project, and it's just going to die right there because the district doesn't have those funds, at least for CR funds. So I see all these advantages. I don't see any real pitfalls in the legislation to answer your question.
And at what point do, the engineer and contractor team go on the time clock in the process, or starting to, you say that we can, basically stop, or withdraw our commitment to the project, but how much, or when would we start paying these, this team of people in the process?
We would negotiate a phase one contract. The phase one contract is the design. phase 2 is the construction. There's an off-ramp. There are multiple off-ramps in the contract, which the board would have to look at, Jesse too, that allow us at any point in time to take the work product and stop the process, drop back, and go through the conventional. And the phase 2 is a negotiated cost. So there won't be any surprises of the construction cost at that time. We will be negotiating everything, including the contractor's markup, which, contractor's markup is usually 10 to 25%. Some contractors will take 10, some will go for 20 some odd percent. And so there's a bunch of negotiating points in there and off ramps.
Would the phase 1 of the process be able to be applied for grant funding to fund that, or is that all come?
That would be covered under the grant.
So if the district already receives grant funding towards a project though, doesn't that commit us to completion of the project?
So the way the grants work is, and I don't want to take too much time, but I want to answer your question. That we come up with our best cost estimate. We get the first, the grant offer. It will cover the design. At time of construction, you do a budget amendment. The state also builds in a 16% contingency. I don't know why they came up with 16, but that's their policy right now, is a 16% contingency. So ideally, your grant is large enough to cover the range of costs for the project. But if you do need more, you have to go back for a budget amendment. But you don't want to go back for a budget amendment for $20 million. You want to go back for something that's reasonable, like, oh, we've got a 5% overrun, not a 25%.
Thank you.
Thank you, good question. Let me see. I'd like to hear from Jesse. Good morning, Jesse.
Good morning. I was waiting for a pause in the conversation. Good morning, President Balin and board members. This particular law, Eric has done a great job in summarizing it. I think there's one piece of information the board might find helpful in its decision. Is this design build process is a relatively new process. It started several years ago, and this process was limited. The authority to enter into this type of a contract was limited to specific entities, not county water districts such as TUD. And what I'm talking about is principally counties and cities. And the reason why the legislature initially authorized a very narrow scope of application for this type of work is because the outcome of these design build projects was uncertain. It was uncertain on what it would do with public bidding. It was uncertain if the economies that were advertised could be met. And so what the legislature did is they authorized a very narrow window for these types of projects to be undertaken. And the outcome of that has been positive. The cities and counties that have entered into these design build style contracts have generally come away with a better product for less money. And so this bill 6991, this particular bill simply expands the authorization to include districts such as TUD with various other limitations. As Eric indicated, there's a cost limit, and it can only be used for particular types of projects, such as wastewater treatment, water treatment, things of that sort. And so the legislature is just kind of taking steps and gradually expanding the application or the authorization for the types of projects that are authorized, because it has worked so far. And so what Eric has described is accurate. There are numerous checks and balances in the authorizing legislation. And I think, just based on my experience with other clients, I believe that this process could provide the district with, well, it will provide the district with another opportunity to design and build a project rather than the conventional method of hiring an engineer, coming up with plans and specs, and then hiring a separate contractor. This allows all the work to be done in-house and provides value on that by doing so. So by including the district in this process, it gives the district the opportunity to utilize it. It will not be beholden or obligated to follow this process. Absolutely not. If after looking at the project and examining it and conversations with me or perhaps other districts, if it just doesn't look like a particular project is the right fit for this design build process, it will not be utilized. So I'll stop talking there. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jesse. Are there any questions? Yes.
The only other question has this bill passed the assembly and it's on the governor's desk?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, when I noodled around, I found very little opposition, if any, for it. You know, so like you said, they wish to expand the program because it was successful. Okay. Thank you, Jesse. Appreciate that. So, Jeff, do you have any questions for Jesse or any comments?
I'll just say that I'm in favor of it, and I'd be willing to make a motion if you're ready, President Balin.
Okay, hang on here. Is there any member of the public that wishes to comment?
Not
Okay, thank you. All right, go ahead then. We're ready.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we authorize the board president to sign the attached letter encouraging Governor Newsom to sign into law SB 991, which will locate water agencies such as TUD to utilize progressive design build contracting methods to deliver capital projects.
I'll second that.
Okay, and it's been seconded by Director Ringen. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote.
Okay, Director Kearns,
Aye.
Director Ringen,
Yes.
Director Balin,
Aye.
Director Boatright,
Aye.
and Director Murphy is absent. Motion passes 4-0.
Great. Okay, thank you, Eric, for clarifying what this is, and thank you, Jesse, for doing the same.
Thank you very much.
Good. All right, then we're moving on to item 5. Melissa, please read our next item.
Okay, Sonora Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant Progress Report.
Okay, well, it's time again for our monthly progress report, and everybody's moved here on the latest status here on the project. As you can see, our cover slide here, quite a bit of disruption down at the site. Hasn't really changed a lot as far as these photos are concerned in the last month. The key thing I should say here is this is ultimately going to be the emergency storage basin, but right now, as this phase of the project, this is our primary pond. All the effluent from the existing plant, which used to be directed into the 3 polishing ponds, now is going through this pond. And then the contractor has constructed a temporary bypass line that takes that to our chlorine contact basin and then out to the reclamation system. The map here showing what activities are currently underway. We continue to finalize the chlorine contact basin, and they're going to be doing a hydrostatic test, which just means they're going to fill it with water and make sure there aren't any leaks. So that's nearing completion in that portion. Our clarifiers, they really are not a lot of activity. They're essentially done. They've been hydrostatic tested, but then all the internals for the center well, Director Boatright would know, scrapers, all of those, the launderers, various components have yet to be installed. They're on site, and there's no rush really to put those in quite yet. The big activity now are these aerated basins. They're excavating for those right now. There was quite an effort to remove the sludge. TUD crews did that, and the contractor is currently excavating in that area right now. The building continues to make progress. You're seeing the walls come up, and all the conduits are in, and at some point, the electricians will be able to actually pull wire through some of these. The solids handling building, the foundations there, the manholes and all the pipelines coming into the site are for the most part done. The headworks, the grit chambers were formed and poured. So we're just seeing a lot of everything that was underground is starting to sprout above ground, and you'll start seeing both the buildings really take shape here. We're at about 26.7% of the overall project budget, but on the construction side, we're closer to a third of the contract with Kiewit being done at this point. We're still on schedule, maybe a few days behind schedule, but pretty negligible difference there. I think we've pointed this out before. The engineering, we continue to keep our eyes on that, but everything else here looks pretty good. The contingency, we're showing 0 of the 3.5 million being spent, but I can assure you there are some change orders that we're processing, and so once USDA approves those, then you'll start to see some of the contingency being drawn down. In a perfect world, at the end of this job, all this contingency will be spent because most of our grant is the $5 million we received in grant. The bulk of it is in the $3.5 million in contingency. So we will find a way to spend it all, but hopefully it's things that we choose to spend it on and not things that we're forced to spend it on because it's a change order that we didn't initiate. I was wrong. We had 244 RFIs and 421 submittals so far, and then in construction completion, nearly a third. So that's all I have to share. Just a few photos here. This was TUD crews in the sludge removal operation. You can see some of the remaining sludge. So that's all gone now. The influence sewer line, which we call the east interceptor, coming in to a manhole, and the grit chambers here, and the chlorine contact basin, and some of the block work for the administration building. And that's all I have to share. Happy to answer any questions.
Sorry, Eric.
That's okay.
On the unsuitable fill material, that was in the bottom of pond 2, the old pond 2 that we're looking at there, the EAS.
Right. Yep. It was a lot of cobble was in there.
A lot of what?
A lot of cobble, like cobble and rock that we were a little concerned wouldn't hold up on the slope if it was cut through as they excavated down for those aeration basins. We were afraid that wouldn't hold on 1.5 to 1 slope. So we've changed the slope to a 2 to 1, and the basin slopes, side slopes, and this material doesn't appear to be an issue. It doesn't really appear to be a change order issue at all. We had Condor out looking at that.
So cobble and black sand.
Well, I think that is more kind of the sludge and the cobble mixed together, but we have better photos that really show the cobble layer. It wasn't tremendously thick, but we weren't sure where it came from.
Is that sort of like a stream bed or something at some point in time?
I don't know if Woods Creek ever got realigned or what a past activity on the site was, or if it was placed there during construction in order to give like there was groundwater there when they were building the basin. We aren't sure.
Yeah, just when I first seen it, the color was concerned about the possibility that was old landfill waste material intertwined.
We haven't seen any indications of like past landfill.
Maybe I'd run it through a sluice box, see if we can finance this differently. All right, thank you. That's all.
I have a question. Will there be, is there a landscaping plan for this?
There is.
Just thinking in terms of climate.
Yes, there will be, and we also have, there is, and we also are using reclaimed water for all of that,
Very good.
including our fire protection as well.
Good points. Okay, great. Any questions from the board? Jeff?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Any member of the public wish to weigh in? Okay, great. Then is this, let's see, what is this, an accept and file or just information only? All right. Well, thanks again for bringing us up to date on that project. Okay, Melissa, would you please read item 6?
Okay, 2022 strategic plan progress report.
Good morning, President Balin, board members, audience. So at the conclusion of the fiscal year 22 and the beginning of fiscal year 23 seems like the appropriate time to bring you a report, a progress report on the existing strategic plan. We're not going to talk about a new facilitated strategic plan. That's for a later date. So today is just a review and a progress report of the work that's been done in the last couple of years. There's been several years prior that we've done some work in this regard. So this is just more current last couple of years. So what we have are seven goals. Each goal has a number of strategies, and each strategy has a number of actions. As a group, we're going to go through and talk about every goal and every strategy, but not necessarily every action. Might get a little obnoxious later. But at the conclusion, you can stop me or any of us at any time, but at the conclusion of each goal, we'll kind of pause and see if we have any questions on that particular goal or the particular strategy. Okay? Sound good? All right. So, did I miss anything? No? All right. Goal number 1, enhance and improve water security. Strategy 1, advance, defend, and expand district control over water supply. Action 1 was listed to pursue water rights, water contracts, area of origin rights, and other methods to improve water supply reliability. So that's all under action 1. So PG water acquisitions, we're doing pretty good till PG put a pause on that through 2023, and we hope to resume negotiations soon, at least by then. We're continuing to work on a contract out of Maloney's, partnering with the Chicken Ranch Rancheria for water out of New Maloney's. And we've completed phase 1 of the sediment removal of Phoenix Lake. Action 4, we said manage and defend against state and federal regulatory actions that potentially harm the district's ability to provide reliable water supply. So we've addressed the State Water Board 401 certification comments for Phoenix Project 1061. We're awaiting a FERC draft environmental assessment on Phoenix Project 1061. And we're also awaiting U.S. Forest Service to finalize its 4E conditions for the FERC license 1061.
Excuse me, Don.
Yes.
Is this are you reading the 2019 or 2019 report? Okay.
Right, from the original 2019 strategic plan.
Okay, great. All right.
So strategy number 2, Eric's going to give a report on this: reduce system losses and improve water systems efficiency to meet multiple community benefits.
Action item 1, identify areas of potential system failure and or frequent leak maintenance, prioritize repairs, improvements, and or upgrades. Quest the high tank consolidation and distribution improvements. The scenic view distribution improvements are completed. Phase 2, hopefully we'll start on the Ridgewood pipeline consolidation. And then the crews right now are working on the Crystal Falls and Cedar Ridge interconnection now. And then action 2, we did the Cedar Rock District Pump Station rehabilitation. That was a really good project for the businesses above it that feeds there, so they have water all the time now. Let's see then. Action 3, the Aldrain Slum Dam repair, it's all completed. Pipeline and turbidity station at the Matlow Ditch, some water quality issues there at Columbia, it helps that a whole lot there. And then the dam rehab at Phoenix Spillway, that's all complete. That's all I was gonna go over that one.
Okay, strategy number 3, upgrade and or consolidate water treatment plants to improve efficiencies and reliability and reduce maintenance and operations costs.
I'll take this one. Well, the board knows this. We talk about consolidation almost every meeting in some form or another. And the board adopted the treated water system optimization plan. That the ultimate goal is to reduce down to 4 water treatment plants, which would be, surface water treatment plants, Big Hill, Columbia, a new Sonora, or repurposed existing Sonora, and Sierra Pines. Long range. And in an effort to do that, we did acquire the land for New Sonora, and then as we just spoke earlier in this meeting, we continue to talk about advancing Sierra Pines. Along with that whole consolidation is identifying and prioritizing improvements per your capital improvement plan for the pipelines that will allow consolidation, and that's where the Mount Provo intertie comes in. We were able to get a grant for that. What Eric just spoke about in terms of the Ridgewood transmission, and also, Crystal Falls, Cedar Ridge. So we're making good progress in that department. And then the implementation of the CIP is really predicated on the budget that the board adopts every year. We've been really making great progress the last 4 or 5 years.
Okay, strategy number 4. Enhance and optimize water storage facilities and provide backup power supplies at plumbing and other critical facilities.
Action 2, identify, prioritize, and implement backup power supply systems at pump stations and other critical facilities. Obtained $300,000 in grants to purchase 5 generators. So, very good. And then again, the CIPs are performing capably.
Yeah, and some additional on the generators, besides the 5 generators for that grant, over the last several years since PSPS has fallen on us, we probably have acquired 24 additional generators from small to medium to large. So we've done an awful lot and spent an awful lot of money in preparation for this. Thank you. All right, strategy number 5, promote water conservation and water use efficiency programs.
Okay, so our actions related to maintaining and enhancing our water conservation and outreach programs and partnerships related to water conservation. So we do participate in the Tuolumne County Drought Task Force with the county and other agencies that are to ensure that we're doing everything necessary as it's related to drought, this multiple year drought, ongoing drought. We also, you'll recall that this year the governor signed an executive order for water conservation and to enact our water shortage contingency plan phase 2. So we provided lots of media coverage and outreach coverage on this topic via social media, via our website, via press releases to get the word out on that. You'll also see a lot of that in other documents as we move forward with water efficiency, and then also with our water efficiency programs, just with our internal system and making our system as efficient as possible.
All right, that was all of goal 1. Do you have any questions for goal 1 before we move on? Okay. You doing okay, Jeff?
Yep, doing great. Thank you.
Okay. All right, goal number 2, improve wastewater collection, treatment, and recycled water use through facility modernization. Strategy 1, upgrade and or replace outdated and inefficient wastewater treatment facilities. Well, almost all of those action items, create new regional septic receiving facilities. Action 2, replace and upgrade / drying equipment and facilities. Action 3, identify, prioritize, implement wastewater treatment equipment and facility upgrades. Action number 4, prepare a Title 22 report. And action 5, identify and obtain easements and rights. All of those pretty much can be addressed with what's going on with the Sonora wastewater treatment facility. All in one fell swoop. The only, I guess on action 5, where it says identify and obtain easements and rights of way for the district facility, I think it's important to recognize that we've acquired encroachments for the Crossroads Lift Stations project, which consolidated the Crossroads Lift Station. We've obtained the city of Sonora easements for the pipeline to new plant. Land acquisition for Willow Springs Lift Station is underway, right? Yes. Still pursuing that. And then we've obtained easements for eventually for the Mono Village Lift Station consolidation project. Strategy number 2, repair and or replace aging wastewater collection pipelines, Twain-Hart interceptor, and lift stations to avoid sewer spills.
All right, well, strategy 1 was on the treatment side mostly, and strategy 2 appears to relate more to the collection system. And the board's heard a lot about the Twain-Hart interceptor over the years, and our crews, we had an extremely expensive proposal to do that work by an outside contractor, and we did it in-house. About 50% of the interceptor has been assessed, 5 to 14 siphons. We removed some plug valves to improve the hydraulics. And as part of that, we didn't really talk up above, but the Twain-Hart wastewater treatment plant project is also is married with the interceptor that takes the flows from Twain-Hart down to our new plant. We are working on improvements, design improvements for that, and it's reflected in the CIP. I think the big things to say here is the district has a robust program with the lining. Every year, this board usually awards a contract and executes a contract with one of, there's usually 5 or 6 lining companies. Director Boatwright's very familiar with this, and we continue to do that. It continues to be really cost effective in pavement, rather than digging through, especially with the dig once policy, to use the lining. Over the last few years, our crews have either rehabbed or replaced 7 lift stations. We've got 1 abandonment that's in process, or we completed the Crossroads abandonment, so it's like a consolidation. We have 1 other one on the books here in the next few years, and then we recently upgraded the Law and Justice Center with a washer compactor. So making great strides on lift stations and pipelines as well.
Okay. Strategy number 3, secure long-term recycled water reclamation sites. Not a lot has been done in this area, with the exception of the Tulare agreement we have with them. Action 1 was through land purchases, easements, and or contracts, obtain long-term rights to recycle treated effluent for beneficial use. That was goal number 2. Any questions on goal number 2?
Yes, the report, let's see, what's that? Under the action 3, like I said, strategy 2, it says the washer compactor was funded by Tuolumne County. That was a joint funding between TUD and
county. You want to go ahead?
Sure. They purchased the unit outright. They paid for the entire unit. Our crews did the install. We had some ancillary costs for like the wiring and stuff that our electrician had, but the majority of it was funded through the county.
Thank
you. Okay. Goal number 3, develop partnerships for the benefit of the community. Strategy 1, coordinate work with local agencies, city, county, special, and school districts, tribes, community organizations. Action 1, work closely with local agencies to coordinate construction projects to maximize cost savings and reduce public inconveniences. So we annually participate in a coordination meeting with the county. Eric's department does. There was a successful collaboration with the county on the Pedro Y intersection project. Established agreements with the county to utilize GIS staffing, resulting in labor cost savings. We're using that quite a bit, and so that's a really nice coordination there, cooperation. See, action number 3, seek local partnerships to obtain grant funding for local benefits. So we've worked with the Tuolumne Band of Miwoks and TIDA, collaborative to work to improve the water system out there, specifically to improve their fire flow on the reservation, and we continue to do that. We just met with them last week for some more projects and maybe some joint ventures on some grant funding, down the road, so that's been working. We've also worked with the Curtis Creek Elementary School grant funding consolidation. That project, they're going online today. I believe they're in school today with TUD water for the first time, so that's good news. We work with the U.S. Forest Service and Fire Safety Council for fuel reduction grants. We are working with Moeller Mutual Water Company to secure funding to consolidate. They have a desire to consolidate with us. We have a desire for them to bring their system up to standards before we take on that burden. And so we're working through that process. It's taken a long time, but we're moving in the right direction. And then we work with county and the city on CDBG funding. Strategy 2, work with regional agencies and industry associations to further district goals and priorities. Action 1, work closely with Mountain County's Water Resource Association, the Association of California Water Agencies, Water Environment Federation, California Special Districts, and other industries. And as you know, we participate and actively participate in those associations. Lots of benefits there. Action 2, cultivate leadership roles for district directors in regional and industry associations and committees to maximize district involvement and key issues of importance. So again, Mountain Counties Water Resources Association, LAFCO, IRWM, JPA, Aqua JPIA. All right. Strategy 3, work with local, state, and federal agencies and elected officials on permitting, grant programs, water rights, and regulatory legislative issues. Action 1, again, we've worked with USDA on Sierra Pines for funding. We've worked with the state water, we're working with the state water board currently for Sierra Pines. We're working with the USBR for the CDP contract out in Maloney's. And of course, the USDA grant for the Sonora Regional Wastewater Treatment Facility. All right, strategy 4, coordinate land use and wastewater resources planning with local, tribal, regional, and state planning agencies. Action 1 was coordinate general plan update and implementation of the city and county. Significant efforts have been made to coordinate updates and implementations. Action 2, seek special district representation on LAFCO and with other local agencies that we currently have. Rick Boatwright that sits on the LAFCO portion there. That's it for goal number 3. Any questions on goal 3? All right. Goal number 4, enhance programs to promote organizational efficiency and development. Strategy 1, use of joint labor management committee to improve organizational communication and decision making.
Okay, I'm up. So for this one, shortly after we had quarterly meetings in 2019, we went into labor negotiations in 2020. So we were conducting those meetings versus the joint labor management. And then since the pandemic, since we struggled to have in-person meetings and meetings in general throughout those years, Joshua Lepper, the labor representative for Local 1130, and I found it quite useful and cooperative to regularly chat about different issues that may come up. So we've had really good communication there, as well as management regularly seeks information from union and non-union employees on training, initiatives, projects, all of those things. So that's been really beneficial. Strategy 2, do you want me to just keep going? I've got through strategy 3 here. Strategy 2, prioritize employee job training and cross-training to improve employee skills and organizational flexibility. So we do this on a regular basis, utilizing Action 1, department, district-wide, and outside trainers in developing curriculum to train and cross-train. So we use department SOPs. We implemented a succession plan in 2017, but we've continued implementing that. We utilize a labor consortium legal consortium, and they have ongoing training for employment benefits and employment issues. And we also have an annual safety plan of action that we follow to ensure that we have adequate training. We also have orientation for new employees and then continual onboarding with on-the-job training to get our new employees up to speed. We also have spent a significant amount of time updating job descriptions throughout the organization, and specific to the operations department with our utility workers and in various divisions. We've done a lot of cross-training recently. We've got folks in collection helping out on the raw water side. We've got construction maintenance, of course, across the board. But utilizing their skills to their strengths in different areas of operations has been really fulfilling for employees, because they get to learn some new skills in different areas of the district, and overall it's made for a much more well-rounded operations department. And then, of course, we have added those goals to our performance evaluations for our supervisors and our managers to make sure that they're encouraging additional training opportunities and cross-training opportunities. And then we also track all of that training, whether it's safety training or on-the-job training or any kind of supervisorial training, we track that through a process so that we know who's due for what training and when. Strategy, oh, yes.
When, as far as the safety training goes and so on, is that related to the, is it information given to the insurance company and so on as to what those classes are, what they entail? And because I would imagine that would have a positive effect on the rates, because it's pretty robust, right? Training?
Yes. Thank you for saying that. That is true. We do have a robust safety program. We've continued that, and Aqua JPIA, who feels new to me still, but we've had for a couple of years now for our workers' comp and our property liability programs. They assign us a risk advisor. So we have worked very closely with our risk advisor. We have continual communication with him. He actually has left, so we're being assigned a new one. So we'll get used to that and communicate with our new risk advisor. But they make suggestions. They come out periodically and review our safety programs, review inspections sheets, and what our actions have been related to that. So we stay very close communication with them because they have a lot of really good resources. And then it also allows them to be much more familiar with our programs, and they have used our programs to help out other districts as well.
Well, that's very positive. I just think that's really positive. And also too, I think it shows that TUD is totally committed to safety, and that would make a big difference, I would think also.
Thank you. Okay, and along those lines with strategy 3, maintain active safety training, emergency preparedness, and risk management programs. So to highlight, we talked a lot about safety just now. So we also do a recognition every year for safety, just recognizing the efforts, because we have kept our workers' comp rates very low because of our safety record. And as far as emergency preparedness, we also participate with PG&E now on the Phoenix project and the Spring Gap project and their emergency drills on an annual basis. So we correlate with them. We have our own emergency response plan that we do tabletop exercises on. And then we also do various different site safety inspections, not only on the workplace safety side, but we have for property liability coverage, our hazardous materials business plan inspections, just went through that with the county, as well as our operator permit headquarters inspection, that's with the ag department on any pesticides used. So everyone's really gearing up on the inspections, so we've had a lot of inspections over the last several months, and we've done very well, and we're keeping up with those programs.
Okay, strategy number 4, support and enhance board management, staff educational and leadership opportunities to better serve the community. So really, under action 1, the only one that can come to mind is, we've had at least 2 joint district, county, city sort of meetings, board meetings, particularly pertaining to the acquisition of PG&E. We've also had a few workshops over the years, board and management workshops attended to look at some of the plant designs and like the meeting we had down at the Snow water treatment plant, for that as condition assessment. Strategy 5, identify policies and procedures to improve efficiency in district communication.
Good morning, Steve Sheffield, your finance director. I get to chime in here. Again, this is all about communication under this goal, and we've just highlighted 5 of the policies and procedures that have been updated since the last time we spoke. These are, some of the most critical ones for the district. The water rules and regulations was updated, wastewater ordinance as well, purchasing and investment policies, health and safety policies were updated, and then the personnel policy is always in process. We're working on the update there. All these policies, as soon as we update them, we find another one to correct. So anyway, a short and brief report just on that action item.
I have a question. Did I miss where, or if we do another plan where I think it may be, I might have missed up in strategy 3, which was safety and preparedness for cybersecurity. Where does that fit in, or did you already mention it?
We didn't mention that.
It's in the next section.
Yeah.
We address it.
It's coming.
Huh?
It's coming up.
Yeah. I mean, when we go for a modified strategic plan update, a workshop, we update and make sure that that's thing is there, because I'm sure we're gonna have CIP that's gonna correspond. Right. Okay.
Does that enter a goal? Or we have the question part for the strategies there?
Say okay.
Are we at the question part for goal number 4?
Yes.
Question. You mentioned cross training and collections people working in raw water and stuff as a separated water and sewer enterprise. How are the hours being tracked to assign that? So that, collections is getting its, full-time attention that it needs, and people working back and forth.
Yeah, our employees' time reporting system identifies what system they're working on and where they are. So actual hours spent are being charged to raw or collections or treatment at fly site.
Okay, so that's done through their time card is to make sure that their time is clean. Thank you.
And if I may,
Well, that's
it's
our,
usually
most of
an
it ended up
emergency
on the collection side, it ended up being more of overtime, helping, the raw water department because of staffing needs. It wasn't on a day-to-day normal routines and anything like that.
That's all. Jeff, you're just gonna chime in if you got something for us.
Nope, I'm all right. I'm listening to the questions, and those are some of the ones I would have asked. So thank you.
Moving right along here. Goal number 5, follow best financial management and fiscal planning practices. Strategy 1, identify and prioritize projects through the capital improvement plan and budget.
And again, you're all well aware, we recently had a budget workshop. We also had the CIP. Both of those are adopted, analyzed, reported, and reviewed on an annual basis. So those both were complete each of the past fiscal years.
Strategy number 2, determine appropriate grant funding opportunities and priorities.
Well, this one is always a work in progress, and the board sets priorities. The staff should identify funding opportunities, and that we recognize there's always grant opportunities out there that I think the board has recognized that maybe staff doesn't quite get to submitting applications for one reason or another. But our CIP is a pretty good roadmap. Those are the projects that we've prioritized through that process. And as you can see, we've done pretty well with grant awards, ranging through a range of infrastructure to fuels reduction to standby generators and whatnot for emergency response. I would say I might be going out on a limb, but I think probably anywhere from 25 to 40% of our capital investment in some years is purely grant funded. So, and it also pays back the labor costs for some of our crews. So we've done pretty well there. Eric, I think you might want to add some action.
Yeah, just on action too, just working with local agencies and businesses and, the Forest Service, CAL FIRE, Tuolumne County Fire Safe Council, Sierra Pacific Industries on some of the grants we've got on the May Canal and some other areas on the DIG system that we can get some shaded field break work. And also send a letter for the SEER project to support that.
All right, strategy 3, identify areas to reduce costs, increase revenues, consolidate services, and improve efficiencies to provide cost-effective services.
I'll go ahead and chime in here and kind of take the lead. This strategy really involves the district as a whole, from the board members to the individual managers, to the departments, to the employees, and just some of the highlights specifically in this area. This is something we work on every day. Every day we're approving requisitions, going out to bid, we're getting new contracts, we're getting grant funds, and you've heard about quite a few of those already. But some of the highlights is we've created additional construction maintenance crews to mitigate the uncertain bidding environment and increase in-house construction. We actually have a drone that we're utilizing for inspection and public outreach. Some of the non-construction related, we hired an investment advisor and implemented investment strategy. As you all know, we started a Prop 218 process specifically for the PG&E that went on hold there. Probably the single biggest one, I think, in the last period here is being awarded the USDA grant and loan to make the regional treatment facility a reality. And then, lastly, it was a huge deal for us to implement the Tyler software conversion, and that affected everybody in the district, and I think it was highly successful. And, you mentioned cybersecurity, President Balin, but, that's something that obviously has become a lot more important. Corey's role as IT administrator is to watch these things like a hawk, and we have almost daily talks about what needs to be done, how to be done. Now, obviously, some of it we don't want to discuss in public because we're making policies and procedures and back of the house stuff to protect both the community as well as our assets on that. But I can tell you we're actively involved. Our insurance carrier also has actively promoted and increased the cybersecurity side of that. So that's integral to all of these. But again, those are just some of the high level points out of those 5 action items.
And on action 2, if I can just real quick, it says, seek methods to improve efficiencies and reduce lead time on designing and constructing capital improvements, SB 991. Progressive design build, that's the first step in being able to implement something like that.
Good. Okay, strategy 4, maintain a structurally balanced budget, utilize user fees to cover the cost of services provided, maintain adequate reserves in all funds, and maintain financial records in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles.
Probably the most specific strategy that falls within my purview of my department in there, but again, that's something that I'm doing on a daily basis in my role as your finance director. I can happily report that we again had 2 more since last time we talked, clean audits by the independent auditors. Most recently, fiscal year 21, we've had those timely. They will be on site next week to begin again. So, that's as good as it gets when you have a clean audit. And And specifically, we're always looking for the policies to bring to the board. And as I mentioned before, some additional ones was the purchasing policy, reserves policy, capital asset definitions and guidelines, conflict of interest code, record keeping and retention schedule, travel expense policy, board of directors policy manual, cell phone and electronic device policy, water leak adjustment policy, and the investment policy. All of those were either revised, created, updated, and implemented. So, thank you.
Well, before we go to goal number 6, any questions on goal number 5? No? Okay. Goal number 6, apply best customer and community service practices. Strategy 1, maintain a high level of customer service as a top priority for the district.
Okay, I will take that one. So as the 2 actions are related to training our staff, our new staff, our existing staff on our customer service goals, and then developing activities and policies that we can focus on those customer relationships and get the message out to our customers in a timely manner and invoke feedback from our customers. So part of that is just starting with the orientation and onboarding of new employees. We've said it a number of times. I know I've heard Steve say it a lot. He not only does he oversee customer service, but every district employee here is in customer service. So that's part of our mission statement, to provide great customer service. And so that's what we do. We start from ground zero with an employee and emphasize that our mission is to provide great customer service and minimize all those interruptions to our customers. So we provide that not only orientation, onboarding, and then continuous mentoring and coaching with support from supervisors and managers on that. And then we also, with respect to our commitment to outreach, we do that through our customer service department, through the first touch of the phone call from our customers, but also with our website, with our customer outreach there, with our social media, with our employment ads. I mean, all of those things get our message of how important customer service is to the district. Let's see, and then I have strategy 2 as well. Provide a high level of community outreach and engagement with respect to district activities, projects, and issues. So I mentioned some of these, I don't want to be repetitive, but we have our customer outreach. We also, you'll recall, for the PG&E acquisition project, we did, and your board hired Raftellus, a communications firm, to help us get our message clear and out there on the importance of the PG&E acquisition. And I think we made great strides with them. We have a lot of really good information. We have great videos that help for the public to understand how important that project is for us when we can resume on that, as well as we're able to roll out a cool where your water comes from video that we just did that at the end of last week. And then just provide for opportunities via email, via the phone, via one click from our website to enlist customer feedback and be able to respond to them quickly and appropriately. Yes, Ron?
Who produced that, where our water comes from video?
So through working with Raftellus, Nick James, who also produced the first video on the water rights acquisition, did the illustration.
Yeah, I thought it was really well done.
Good, I'm glad you like that. Yeah, it was a really good one. I think it's very short, sweet, to the point. It's modern. You know, you see a lot of illustrated videos out there right now, so I'm glad you like that. And so we'll continue to push that out there. Let's see, did I miss anything? We've also revised and enhanced our toilet rebate program, providing opportunities and tips on how to be water conscious. And so we have a lot of work to do on the website. But we're excited to do it. We're excited to give it a little bit fresh look. We have some really good ideas, and with Emily's help, we're going to make a more user-friendly website that we can get all this information out there a little bit more effectively. So that was it for me on that one.
On goal 7, if we're ready. Okay, pursue environmental stewardship opportunities and community programs. Strategy 1. Identify projects, activities, and programs with multiple community benefits and prioritize for implementation. Action 1, seek local, regional, and statewide partners to improve project success and community involvement. Well, in there, we've listed, we have, personal interviews with various community leaders and members of the public seeking input, and I'm specifically towards the acquisition of PG assets. We participated in joint board meeting with the county and the city of Sonora and with the tribes to inform and communicate water rights acquisition. We've held meetings and with interested community members such as the U.S. Forest Service. We've held public meetings to discuss recreational improvements in Sierra Pines. Strategy number 2, provide community outreach in the early stages of project and program development. Action 1, during the initial stages of project and or program development, identify communities of potential impact and seek consultation and input. So through the CEQA process, we involve both the public and tribal outreach for the initial stages of projects, notice and right of entry from property owners on vegetation management and fuels reductions. Strategy number 3, use resource efficiently, reduce waste and minimize negative impacts to the environment. Action 1, practice resource conservation by making the most efficient use of resources and energy savings devices when developing district projects. So installed new, more efficient thermostats in the admin building. Action 2, practice pollution prevention by minimizing contamination to the environment through thoughtful project design and the incorporation of redundant systems and backup emergency supplies. So we're continually evaluating sources of renewable energy. I think a lot of thought went into the design of the new sewer treatment plant down there. And if you didn't know, we maintain an NPDES permit for the distribution system. And again, for those of you who don't remember, NPDES stands for National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System. That concludes goal number 4. Now, open it up for debate or for discussion or any more questions, but just kind of summing it up for me, what this means to me and how I have taken the approach of when the strategic plan is handed to me. It was and is coming up the opportunities for the board to give clear direction for staff to go in multiple directions, right? In multiple areas of the district. And, I've been around for 3 or 4 of these over the 22 years. This one really sort of got my attention, and I finally understood it as the roadmap, the clear direction, and that everything that we do on a day-to-day basis, if we can't tie it to the strategic plan, we probably shouldn't be doing it. Now, that's not to say emergencies don't come up and things come up that we have to address, excluding those, but almost in every case, we can tie those incidents to the strategic plan in some manner. So again, this particular strategic plan, 2019, a different board, a different set of managers. It's been a good strategic plan. It's been a good guiding document for me personally. I think for the rest of us, I think we've done a great job. I don't know if we've done an excellent job. I think there's some areas we fell shy on, and I think that can happen when you have different, it's several years old, again, different board, different managers, it might have a different meaning today than it did then. So anyway, any questions for us? Thoughts?
I have thoughts, but I'll keep it short. I think this is a great overview of what everybody's doing. It's a good program of work. It's got some strategy built in, but with regards to the actual board giving a philosophy or a set of values, which is a higher level than a program of work, what we're doing and how we're doing it and what we're considering. It reminds me of the grand jury suggestions in their summary, which is to that there's underutilized directions that we could go that could involve not CIP money or not O&M money, but I'll just call it soft money out here. Like for, they actually cited Phoenix Lake. So if the board, if we decided to do a workshop, and this kind of harks back to Joe Day from the 2008 board, he really pushed for, okay, we've got these lists, program of work and how we're doing it and what we value in it. But for the board to actually have a little preamble, for an example, water security, which is the board values water security as for its highest priority for the economic, social, and environmental well-being of the community and its future. That is the board direction right there, okay? Then the staff's got everything here. And then you take another one that might say the board values collaborative approach at the beginning of the project, involve every agency and tribe for that, progressive collaborative approach, which is what SB 991 is all about as well. But I think if the board decided to do a workshop, I would want us to focus on a collective strategic values. Let's say, and I'm just speaking for myself, I value climate adapting, every move we make, adapting and anticipating the effects of climate change, like extreme heat, and planning now, vegetation management, nature-based risk reduction, the efficiency of using nature. That is a board value, that is my value. Because I look at efficiency as systems management, okay? So I would like to see the board actually have a workshop where we identify what we value as guiding direction. For example, I value all those other aspects of the Phoenix Lake project, the social and environmental. That's our gem, that lake is our gem. I also value the capacity enhancements, but I actually value nobody leaving the room until every aspect of that unfunded plan got funded. I value that. So where is this? And what I'm saying is, this is all great, program of work, but as far as a collective group of directions from us, I mean, David, you could just value, you could reinforce the valuing of being a collaborative approach to the that you actually did in reviewing all the plans for the new PACE engineering thing. We have so much talent, from the ground up in this area. In your program of work, the solutions are coming from within rather than advanced engineering firm. Not that they don't do a good job, but we have a lot of talent on the board too, and I think that a collective way of looking at priorities, adapting the grand jury direction, grant development, which is very independent of CIP. I appreciate the grants that you get from CIP for CIP stuff, but at any rate, I just feel like it's time that the board voiced what's driving all of us in terms of ratepayer approach and how we see what we can do that's inclusive. Maybe we don't value inclusiveness, okay, in our decision making. But if we do, it would be nice to have it barfed out there as an intention. It is the board's intention that everybody value inclusiveness in their decision making, in this document, that document. So anyway, that's my brief summary. But I would like us to do, this is great, I am not criticizing this, but I would like to update it with little preambles, like that we value collaborative, cross jurisdictional approach to problem solving, and uniting competing visions with the nature-based approach to adapt to climate change. That, boom, that's the board value, and we all, the board, agreed on that. So anyway, my vote is for at some point a facilitated strategic planning, identifying our strategic values so that can then trickle down into staff.
Thank you.
I'm done.
Does that also include along the lines to, I don't know, take out some of the vagueness in our current strategic plan as far as our overall goals and how easily almost anything you can think of, it's under some category somewhere. So you're gonna always say that, this fits under the strategic plan is why we're doing this. Whereas if I pull out an atlas roadmap and I'm here, and I wanna be here, I can find the roads that will most efficiently get me to that point without taking all of the side trips in and around or, having to change. It just, to me, the overall strategic plan has too much vagueness, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to remind Director Boatright that this strategic plan was the first one that had been done in years. And it was done right in amongst a new rate plan, an increase. So it may have some weak points in it, but I think personally, when I see the amount of progress that this organization has made through that strategic plan, I guess my only bit of advice would be is that things such as what you're talking about and what President Balen's talking about would be what we would want to be looking at when we go into the new strategic plan, and then we can flesh those issues out or add things that people feel are important at that time. But having been on the board as many years as I have, and going out and touring the various projects and facilities and all that, I am amazed that this organization has been able to accomplish in the past number of years, especially because of this strategic plan. So I'll leave it at that.
So, I'm not saying that we don't have a lot of good things that are being accomplished and all that. And just if, from the outside looking in, I think we've got some, very almost too broad of overcasting goals.
Would you be interested in a strategic planning workshop?
Yeah.
Jeff, any comments?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Dawn and Abby and Steve and Eric, all your input on this, and I appreciate it. And I think this is a good workable strategic plan. I mean, is it perfect? No, probably none of them are. But as they gave us through their update there, I mean, we're making progress and we're getting things done. And I wouldn't be against a workshop in the future to tweak it a little bit, maybe like you were talking about there, President Balen. But I'm happy with it the way it was presented today. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, any other discussion, 2 cents, anything? Okay, any member of the public wish to comment on this update? Appreciate it. No, Corey? Okay, no member of the public, okay. Appreciate this opportunity to go over this update. And so this is just a review, so that's it. Okay. Then maybe we can work and set a date or set a time or take a look at strategic planning folks. I know that county worked with a good one. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, then we will go on to get a staff report. reports. Do you want more to say?
Just a little bit, well, I don't have to end. On the 10th of August, I attended the Twainhart CSD board meeting to present the Twainhart wastewater treatment plant proposed improvements, although it's very high level, but mostly just to engage in them with the conversation, let them know that that was going on. Most of them had no idea that that treatment plant existed or that it served, primarily their community. So the presentation went well. The opportunity to discuss, potential cost share agreement went over really well. They're very receptive, very cordial. We were actually able to take them out on a tour right after the board meeting, and some of them really appreciate the tour. So more to come on that later. But I will tell you, they made a decision on the spot on their agenda. They are or were right in the middle of the beginning stage of their rate study, their new rate study for their eventual 218. But because of this unknown and some of the other known knowns, they decided to put a pause on theirs till they get a better idea of what we're doing on our end as it would affect them. So anyway, that was a good opportunity there. So August 12th, I had a water supply contract meeting with the DOR. It's progressing as slowly as possible, but it's progressing. I can at least tell you we're meeting on a regular basis. I don't know if Jesse's still there, but we're working on a cost share agreement with the Chicken Ranch Rancher to our work on that. So August 15th, we met with the Jamestown Sanitary District to discuss tertiary treatment options and possibilities. Still working in there. August 16th. Jennifer Batt and myself, and mostly Jennifer, I was just attending. We were invited to the Sierra Professional Association to give an update on the wastewater treatment plant. And I'm just telling you, we're just very blessed to have many people like Jennifer, very talented and artful in her presentation. She did a wonderful job representing the district in that environment. She did a great job. So really happy to have gone there. Also on the 16th, Abby may elaborate on this. Eric and Abby went over to CCWD to talk about a mutual aid agreement. And on the 19th, I attended the drought task force. That's it, Frank.
Okay, I will elaborate on that meeting. Yeah, last week on August 16th, Eric and Emily and I went over to CCWD, met with Michael Winkler, the general manager there, Stacy Lawler, HR director, and Damon Wyckoff, the ops director, as well as Jessica Self, who's their grants, that's not her title, external affairs manager. And so that was a great opportunity. We had never met Jessica, so Emily and Jessica have a follow-up meeting to discuss all measure of things from grants to financial software and things that they each have expertise on and they can share with that. So that'll be really great. I was really excited to connect those two. And we had a really great discussion on many different things, but yes, the purpose of that meeting, the primary purpose was to look at the mutual assistance agreement, finalize just a couple of the topics on reimbursement of labor, as well as the use of equipment if we were to use operators and each other's equipment for an emergency situation. So CCWD is taking the lead on the edits to that, so we anticipate we'll get that soon. And they have already reached out again and wanted to come over here this time to TUD and talk with us over here and maybe get a little tour of some of our facilities as well. So really great interaction going with them. Joel Metzger from Utica is typically there as well. He was not able to make last week's meeting, but he'll most likely join us in our next meeting over here. That's all I have to report.
The only thing I'd like to bring to the board's attention is a few meetings ago, you executed or awarded a contract to Always Paving to do some paving work on Phoenix Lake Road. And if you've driven that section of Phoenix Lake Road, it isn't up to standard in terms of rideability and smoothness. We're working with the contractor to ensure that some additional work gets done to put that road back into a good condition. But if you hear from your constituents any complaints in regards to that project, assure them that we're still working on it. The project is not considered complete, and we'll let you know when we do consider it, absolutely complete.
I said nothing else unless anybody's got any questions.
On the 10th after Twin Heart wastewater treatment plant tour, we went to Tuolumne Water Treatment Plant and did a tour with some of the staff members from the Chicken Ranch tribe. They're in the process of developing their water treatment facility, so they had some questions and took them on a quick tour there. Other than that's it.
That's great. I'm so glad, Emily, you're reaching out to Jessica. They're just a real treasure trove, as we are, and that those relationships are just, we'll say that, I mean, that is the road to efficiency, is these really great, hey, what are you guys doing over here? No, that's really great, yeah. And yes, I have received some inquiries, let's say, as to the condition and the safety, and so thank you for being on that. It's terrific, yeah.
Feel free to forward them to us too.
Yeah. Okay, so first directors.
The only I have is there any new follow-up on the email we received about muddy water taste on Phoenix Lake Road?
I don't know, is there any more follow-up? Maybe, let me start my memory. So, a couple of meetings ago, I think it was Director Murphy who brought up the fact that the usual taste and odors are back in Sonora. And I hadn't personally heard a lot of the complaints, but sitting where I sit now, I'm not as close as I used to. But I did reach out to customer service, and they did confirm it that there had been an uptick in water quality concerns in the Sonora area. So that's normal, right? It's not that it's good, but it's just normal. It's just the fact of life for TD and the water out of Phoenix Lake. So having dealt with this for 10 years, it's on a scale, right? It's, 10 being the worst, 1 being the best, where that scale is for me, it's probably around 3 or 4, but anyway, so now coincidentally, we've intertied the Phoenix Lake Park subdivision into this new water where they had well water before, now they have Phoenix Lake water, so their scale is high, right? It's really bad. So other than, that's all I really know. There's been no more communication. Trevor's doing everything he can at the treatment plant, along with the raw water division to blend some Power Creek water into Phoenix Lake to kind of dilute that.
So it would be the normal cycle of the reservoirs is what's going on, not anything tied to the new construction on Phoenix Lake?
No, we don't believe so. Again, having lived this for 22 years, it seems normal to me. It's an unfortunate thing for us, but it's normal for us.
Okay. I've got, just very little, but I wanted to follow up on that email that I read, so thank you.
And was LAFCO canceled?
LAFCO canceled, their meeting was actually the day before our last board meeting,
Oh, okay,
but had canceled, assuming all the information. So, waiting another meeting in September.
okay, thank you.
President Bannon, just finish up my statement though. I understand the water is safe to drink. It is tested on a regular basis. It's tested more often if need be. It is safe to drink. It's just not pleasant sometimes.
Thank you, Laura. Yeah, Karen.
I have a couple of questions, one of which Director Boatwright just brought up, so that'll save me asking that again.
Okay.
So let me start out with just giving my report as to what I've been involved in. On 8/17, Tendon participated in the Tuolumne Stanislaus Irwin Water Advisory Committee meeting and the JPA meeting. And during the Water Advisory Committee meeting, this is kind of hard to explain and it doesn't make a lot of sense, but I'm going to try. The T-stand Irwin is like a fair child of the water board. It's very efficient, it's very productive. It's brought well over $25 million of grant monies here into the county, and for projects that our ratepayers and the citizens would never be able to afford. But with that being said, our administrator, Lindsay Mattos, has a very, very good ongoing, almost daily connection with the water board. And as a result, they end up telling her about grant opportunities that are coming up in advance, so we can get prepared for it. Well, in this one case, which we discussed ad nauseum during that meeting, this last meeting, they actually have already granted the grant to us, and we don't even have the finalized plan, which is something I've never heard of before. So anyway, the plan was put together in a rough state in the meeting prior last month. And it was a warm and fuzzy type thing, real loose, no real details. It was about putting in drinking water dispensers that you could fill up water bottles, and for the homeless. And then there was another aspect to it that had to do with wells, and wasn't decided whether we were gonna try and use grant money to test the wells, see if they're safe water for the homeowners, or repair wells, like a bad pump or something like that. Anyway, like I say, it was very, very not confusing. It wasn't confusing to me because I've been around this stuff for a long time, but it was too nebulous, and you can't turn in for a grant if you don't have the details down and you don't know what you're going to do. And as they started talking about this, the various members of the Water Advisory Committee, it started to get, I had numerous questions and comments, and because it looked to me like we narrowed down mostly to the water dispenser units. And anyway, I felt that it was going to affect TUD's ratepayers in a very negative way. And so I don't know where it's going to go. What ended up happening was, in frustration, they basically stopped discussing it and formed a committee of which I'm on. And that committee will be the one that's going to try and come up with what's going to go into that grant application. But it culminated in a community watershed committee meeting, which I'm the chairman of, because I want to hear from staff. I want to explain what's going on, and I asked Melissa, who she's already done it, to get the rough draft so that we have it at the committee meeting. And I want good input from staff, so that when I go to that committee meeting, I've got not only what my own thoughts are, which, like I said, it shut the program down, at least until this committee meets, but I want to hear from staff as to what your thoughts are, because I want to go in there and load it for bear. I don't want to kill this thing, but I want to make sure. Right now it's not set in stone yet that the homeless camp is going to be down there off of High School Road to Jamestown. but it very well could, because the county's pushing it really hard. And I don't even think we have a pipe in the ground down there, number one. Number two, once you get the dispenser installed with the grant money, so who's paying for the water? And then who's gonna maintain the dispenser? So anyway, September 1. We'll hear from you. That's it for me.
That's it, okay, thank you. I only have one thing to report, and that is tonight, in Columbia, there is a town hall on fire protection of the town. You know, there was the moving house burned down, a historic home, and everybody realized that there wasn't any resources available there. The nearest engine was, I don't know, 15 minutes away or something, so so there's gonna be a town hall there, and so I thought I would attend that, because I think Randy Hanfeld said it, although in my vernacular, these historic communities are non-renewable resources. They won't recover. We don't log those timbers anymore that, are part of the buildings, but just watching the Paradise folks, they're selling and leaving because the infrastructure is toast, and it's just really hard to gather it back up again in a cost-effective way. We already have a diseconomy of scale here, so like this thing, being ahead of the ball here is really our best chance of surviving in many ways, knowing what's going on, so we don't end up needing to do damage control. So with that, that's tonight at 6 p.m. at Columbia Elementary. Folks are going to be there discussing fire. I think water should be part of that discussion too, but anyway. There, and Jeff, what do you got? Let Jeff speak first and then. Okay.
Yeah, the only thing, I just had one thing to report. I too attended the Trumbull County Drought Task Force last Friday on the 19th, and it was good to see Dawn, and I think Emily was on there, and one other person might have been Eric Johnson, but yeah, good meeting. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good, thank you, Jeff. Yeah.
I forgot to ask my question. So during your visit with Twin Heart CSD, is there any mention whatsoever of that very shaky sewer line that's glued to the rock above our watershed? I think that thing needs to be.
I believe that they have, I think they have some money or a grant.
They have some what?
They have some money or a grant that they're going after.
Oh, good.
To address it.
It's one of on their top priorities.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That is very, very good to hear, because we don't need a break in that, because that'll be right in the Phoenix Rapids. Then just one quick comment. When you two go to that meeting there in Columbia tonight, make sure and introduce yourself to, if you don't already know, Barry Rudolph. Do you know him?
Heard of him for years. I don't think I've met him.
He's really on the ball guy. He's full of information, and I was having a back and forth with him several years ago over fire water draft points, and he sent me pictures of the CAL FIRE fire water drafting points that are further up the hill that they installed years ago. So he's totally gets it, and so he might be a really great contact. Okay. That's it.
Okay. All right. Any other comments for the good of the meeting? So seeing none, then adjourn the meeting at 11:25.
See you, Jeff.
Thanks, you guys. See you later.